Opposition Leader Allen Chastanet addressed the press on the government's fiscal year budget, warning that the country was facing serious economic challenges. He alleged that the administration had been concealing the true state of the nation's affairs and called for great transparency. Speaking ahead of the Governor General's throne speech, Chastanet expressed hope that the budget would clearly outline measures to stabilize and safeguard Saint Lucia's economy.
Hopefully, the throne speech will contain in it details in terms of how the government intends to rescue Saint Lucia. The numbers coming out of the Social and Economic Review have revealed that the government was, in fact, lying to the people of Saint Lucia leading up to the election, indicating that all was well. And in fact, the numbers show a very different number. Probably the most significant number is that we now know that the economy has contracted by just over 0.5%. But the debt of the country has risen by 6.5%. And so the debt to GDP has now increased to 77%. And that number comes before the $650 million that they borrowed in the last 2 sessions.
Chastanet stated that the issue extended beyond the debt to GDP ratio, emphasizing that the government had also pledged not to introduce new taxes.
That's a lie, because when prices are artificially rising, so when we had the inflation and the price of goods rose, the tax level remained the same as a percentage, but the amount of money that the government was collecting was significantly more. And let's just look at a simple solution. Another country in this region recently announced that they're only going to charge the VAT and excise tax on goods coming in on the FOB price and not on the CIF price.
The Health and Security Levy officials acknowledged lapse in oversight, noting that arrangements had not been intended to remain in place for 2 years.
We all know, we all saw it for ourselves, we all were under the impression that it was for 2 years. The fact is that the numbers that we see today are suggesting that the government cannot reduce taxes because the cost of operations of government has increased significantly over the last 4 years. In fact, the cost has risen substantially higher than revenue. How is it? And we should ask ourselves that question. You know, we're all intelligent enough to ask ourselves that simple question. The government has had record collections of tax money. Record. Because of some of the things I've pointed out. You say that you had record numbers of CIP. Yet still, you added $350 million of debt to the country this year. And since you've been in government, you've added $1.3 billion of new debt.
Chastanet stated that a miracle would be required to restore Saint Lucia to its former condition, while affirming his commitment to act in the best interests of the people during his time in opposition. For 7 TV News, Josiah Bisset reporting.